LoveLore Library. Chapter 107, She's a Genius. Her shout further fueled the anger in Lin Aotian's heart, and he rushed over to fight with Ziwei. Other onlookers were taken aback, thinking that Su Yingxue was too audacious. She dared to confront General Lin and his daughter. Ziwei knew that Su Yingxue wouldn't let him kill the man, so he merely engaged in combat without attempting to kill. However, Lin Aotian's every move was deadly, and Ziwei's eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty coldness. With a single sword thrust, he could pierce through Lin Aotian's heart. Just as he was about to deliver the fatal blow, Su Yingxue's voice rang out, "Ziwei, stop." Whoosh! The sword's edge whistled past, but Ziwei quickly retracted his attack. Wherever his sword passed, 3 tables and chairs were shattered into pieces. Lin Aotian's heart was trembling. If Su Yingxue hadn't stopped Ziwei, he would have been killed. Su Yingxue patted Ziwei's shoulder, instructing him to back off. Ziwei, who had been emanating a chilling killing intent that even frightened Lin Aotian, now seemed like an obedient child, and he immediately disappeared from the medical hall. Lin Aotian couldn't even figure out where he went. "General Lin, let's talk things through. Your impatient temper is detrimental to your health. It's better to be more gentle." Su Yingxue kindly had someone help Lin Aotian and even bandaged him to stop the bleeding. Lin Aotian sneered. "Bah! A kid like you dares to lecture me, a seasoned general. Where is my Cici? What did you do to her? If she's even slightly harmed, 111 take your life." Seizing the opportunity, Su Yuro pretended to show concern. "Yes, sister, Cici came in fine. You mustn't let anything happen to her. You should return her safely to General Lin." "Of course." Su Yingxue smiled at Su Yuro. That smile sent a shiver down Su Yuro's spine, and she began to doubt. Could it be that Su Yingxue had cured Lin Cici? Quickly, Su Yuro dismissed such thoughts. She knew that Lin Cici's illness was hereditary, passed down through generations, and many renowned physicians and imperial doctors had tried to cure her, all in vain. How could Su Yingxue, who seemed so strange, possibly succeed? No, that was impossible. She followed Lin Aotian into Su Yingxue's treatment room. Lin Cici was lying on the treatment bed. When Lin Aotian saw her, he rushed over and held her hand like a precious gem. "Cici, are you all right? My precious daughter, if anything happens to you, it'll kill Su Yingxue." Just as Su Yuro was about to gloat, she heard Lin Cici reprimand her father. "Father, you can't harm Dr. Su. She's a genius doctor." Su Yuro was confused. Approaching with a concerned expression, she spoke softly, "Cici, if you're feeling unwell, you must tell me. Don't worry about her being my elder sister or the Marquis Manor's reputation. Your health is more important than anything." Lin Cici rolled her eyes. "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm feeling fine. After Dr. Su gave me the medicine, I felt much better." As she got up from the bed, Lin Aotian noticed that her face had undergone some changes. The pimples on her face were no longer red and swollen, and even her expression had softened. With Lin Aotian's support, Lin Cici bowed to Su Yingxue. "Dr. Su, after taking the medicine and resting, I feel much better. I trust that you can cure my illness." Lin Aotian was bewildered and asked, "Cici, what's going on here? Why are you giving her such a grand bow? Are you sure taking her medicine won't harm you?" Chapter 108, Kowtow and kneel to thank me. "Father, what are you talking about? After I took Dr. Su's medicine, one feel much more relaxed now, and I'm sleepy. I want to go back and rest." Lin Cici acted like a little girl, tugging at Lin Aotian affectionately. Lin Aotian was even more astonished. Lin Cici, just like him, had always had a fiery temper since she was a child, and even when she lost her temper and fought with him, her father, she had never acted so coquettish before. It was simply unbelievable. Moreover, she said, "Father, our family has a hereditary disease. You should also let Dr. Sue take a look at you. I'm sure she can help you sleep better." Lin Cece guided Lin Aoyan to sit down on a chair and carefully implored Su Yingxue, "Dr. Su, can you please treat my father as well? He is just like me. He hasn't had a proper rest for a long time, and his health has deteriorated significantly." Su Yingxue nodded. "I can treat him, but General Lin has to be willing and trust me." Lin Aoyan still had wounds caused by Ziwei, so it was hard for him to trust Su Yingxue. However, witnessing Lin Cece's sudden change in temper and improved complexion, and hearing her plea, "Father, if we want to live a good life, we must listen to Dr. Su. Only she can save us." Seeing his daughter's request, Lin Aoyan could only put down his face and put his hand on the table. "If you can't cure me, I won't thank you." Su Yingxue's expression remained indifferent as she took his pulse. As expected, he had the same condition as Lin Cece. He got excessive internal heat, disorderly lifestyle, causing damage to various organs. Consequently, he couldn't control his temper, and his health was declining. Su Yingxue poured a bowl of the medicine she had prepared for Lin Cece and gave it to Lin Aoyan to drink. After taking the medicine, Lin Aoyan immediately felt drowsy, and the burning sensation in his heart seemed to have been extinguished by a bucket of cold water. He was now drowsy and felt like resting. It had been months since he had proper sleep, and the repeated insomnia had made him increasingly irritable. Now that he had rested here with Su Yingxue for a while, he felt much more relaxed. Lin Cece noticed that her father's flushed face gradually calmed down, and the redness in his eyes lessened. She couldn't help but shed tears of joy. "Father, do you feel the same way as one do? Much better, right?" Lin Aoyan was still a bit groggy, but he woke up and felt that his whole body was more comfortable. "Yes, much better, and I don't feel like losing my temper anymore." Lin Aoyan was perplexed. He looked at Su Yingxue with even more surprise. "Su Yingxue, what kind of medicine did you give us?" How could it be? For generations, they had sought the expertise of numerous imperial physicians, but no one could cure this hereditary illness. And yet, today there was a significant improvement. Su Yingxue wrote 2 prescriptions for them and said calmly, "Your illnesses do have a hereditary history, but what's more important is for both of you to cultivate your character and control your temper to improve your health. Otherwise, your lifespan will be shortened, and you will continue to suffer." Lin Aoyan suddenly realized. So that's the root cause. Their family was hot-tempered. Over the years, their bodies would not be able to withstand it, and they would feel tortured and uncomfortable, resulting in early death. Lin Aoyan instantly felt regretful. He had not noticed it for so many years. If not for Su Yingxue, the father and daughter would not have been able to escape the fate of early death. Su Yingxue had saved both of them. Lin Aoyan stood up, then bent his knees and knelt heavily in front of Su Yingxue. Chapter 109. Su Yuro is a sinister person. Thank you for saving us, Dr. Su. My daughter and I are incredibly grateful. General Lin, please rise, Su Yingxue replied with a benevolent smile. As a doctor, I must treat and save people. However, for both of you to recover from your illnesses, besides taking medicine, you must pay attention to various aspects of your daily life. Su Yingxue provided them with 2 sets of instructions. One was a prescription for medication, and the other contained guidance on how to regulate their lifestyle, including rest, diet, and learning to control their emotions and temper. She believed that if they diligently followed her advice, taking the medicine and improving their temperament, their health would significantly improve, and they could avoid early death, at least not dying before the age of 40. Lin Outyan and his daughter bowed deeply to Su Yingxue again. Lin Cici's fiery temper had changed. In front of Su Yingxue, she spoke softly, "Dr. Su, please forgive me for my previous behavior. I don't want to die early, so I promise not to whip people easily in the future." Su Yingxue nodded reassuringly. "Take good care of yourself, and your health will not be a problem." As for this whip, Su Yingxue returned the whip she had thrown aside earlier. Lin Cici, who had never parted with her beloved whip, felt a hint of fear upon seeing it again. "One don't want it anymore. I'm afraid that I won't be able to control myself and will end up wanting to hit others again." As she said that, a wave of impatience surged in Lin Cici's heart. In the past, she did not know how to control her temper at all. She was like a firecracker that would be ignited at the slightest point. She would randomly whip anyone, so she did not have a single friend since she was young. She seemed to be self-reliant and trained in martial arts, but she was inferior. Because of her face, she was often laughed at by those noble ladies, so she used the whip to teach them a lesson. However, the effect was even worse. They feared her and hated her even more. But now, her face could be cured, and her illness could be treated. She no longer wanted to be a tyrant who wielded a whip all the time. Su Yingxue decided to keep the whip for the time being. "In that case, I'll hold on to the whip until you can control your temper and refrain from anger. Once you've achieved that, you can come to reclaim it. There's no need. I'll give this whip to Dr. Su. It's a red jade soft whip bestowed by the Emperor, and the red jade used as the handle is unique and precious." Lin Cici spoke with great valor. Although she was reluctant, she realized her life was more valuable. Observing the rare red jade handle, Su Yingxue chuckled softly. "In that case, I won't be able to accept any more consultation fees from you." "No, we must pay the consultation fee. I'll reward Dr. Su with 10 times the standard fee." Lin Outyan insisted, cupping his hands respectfully. "No need for that. I treat all patients equally, not just the wealthy and noble. One only charge the regular fee." "General Lin, you can pay the standard fee at the counter," Su Yingxue replied calmly. Lin Outyan and his daughter admired Su Yingxue even more. Before leaving, Lin Cici cast a reproachful glance at Su Yuro. "You're too cunning. Dr. Su is undoubtedly a genius doctor, but you deceived me by saying that her reputation is unfounded. You even asked me to teach her a lesson. Luckily, Dr. Su is skilled. Otherwise, one might have injured her accidentally." As Lin Cici spoke, everyone focused their disapproving gaze on Su Yuro. Instantly feeling the weight of everyone's disdain, Su Yuro's eyes turned red as she tried to defend herself gently and delicately. "Cici, how can you say that? I was concerned about your illness, and I thought about our sister's ongoing consultation. One wanted her to treat your illness and improve her reputation. It would have been beneficial for both of you. I had no other intentions." Chapter 110, The Second Female Patient. "What do you mean there's nothing else? Before one came, you clearly said that your sister would mock me. I couldn't stand it anymore, so one whipped her. You're twisting the truth." Lin Cici's temper flared up again. Even though she didn't have a whip in her hand, it didn't prevent her from speaking the truth. Everyone immediately understood how Su Yuro was trying to manipulate the situation. Su Yuro's face flushed and then turned pale. She bit her lower lip. She was secretly annoyed. Lin Cici was an idiot. She was deceived by Su Yingxue with just a few words. Tears hung from the corners of her eyes. "Cici, it's a gratifying thing that you can be cured by my sister. However, I've always been there for you, hoping that you'll recover soon. Even if one haven't done much, I've still put in some effort. Now that you're blaming me like this, it hurts my heart, sob. She had a delicate face that made people dote on her. Now that she was crying like a pear blossom in the rain, people could not bear to blame her. However, General Lin and his daughter were both straightforward and fiery individuals. They were not fooled by her tactics at all. General Lin even retorted disdainfully, "A woman like you should stop associating with Cece. One don't want her to become a hypocritical schemer like you." He then turned to remind Su Yingxue, "Dr. Su, be careful not to be harmed by such a vile person." Su Yingxue nodded. "Thank you for your reminder, General." Su Yuro felt the rage boiling inside her but couldn't express it. She wished she could spit all over the faces of the father and daughter. Fool. A whole family of short-sighted fools. Once they left, Su Yuro knew she couldn't stay at the clinic any longer. Su Yingxue had already warned her that if she came again, she would get Ziwei to take action against her. The man with the sword looked too terrifying, and Su Yuro didn't dare to get anywhere near him. She had no choice but to leave. Thankfully, today she had only come to the clinic with Lin Cece, and there were no nobles present. Otherwise, if news of what happened today spread, her true identity would be exposed, and the image she had carefully crafted for many years would be ruined. However, the humiliation she faced today made her angry just thinking about it. She couldn't swallow her anger. She went to a garden to vent her grievances, crying her heart out. After all the commotion, Su Yingxue had only treated Lin Cece. It was noon, and she was supposed to go for lunch and rest. However, she heard Manager Qi talking to someone outside. "Miss, the doctor needs to rest at noon. You can come back in 2 hours. Please tell her that this is the only time I'm available, and one hope drive Su can show some mercy to a woman like me," a gentle voice replied, causing people's hearts to ache. Manager Qi was in a dilemma. Su Yingxue stood at the door of the treatment room and smiled at the woman. "Miss, please come in." The woman's eyes lit up, and she hurriedly entered the treatment room, immediately closing the door. Su Yingxue sat in front of her table, noticing the woman's peculiar behavior and her unusual attire. Although it was early spring, it wasn't so cold that one needed to wear so many layers of clothes. The thick garments covered her graceful figure entirely. Additionally, she wore a veil under her hood, making it impossible for Su Yingxue to see her face. Su Yingxue could only make assumptions based on the silk and gold embroidery on her clothes, indicating that she came from a wealthy family. Xingping sat in front of Su Yingxue, clutching her clothes with both hands. Her gentle voice trembled as she said, "Doctor, I'm sick." Su Yingxue noticed her nervousness and decided not to ask further questions. Instead, she asked her to extend her hand for a pulse examination. Chapter 111, The Choice Between Life and Death. After taking her pulse, Su Yingxue instantly understood why she was wearing so many clothes. Xingping was waiting for Su Yingxue to speak, feeling as nervous as if awaiting her punishment. She thought Su Yingxue would inquire about her identity, the reason behind her condition, or whether she was married. However, Su Yingxue's tone remained calm. She simply asked, "Right now, you have 2 choices, one is a path to survive, and the other is a path to death. Which one will you choose?" Xingping was momentarily taken aback but showed a hint of gratitude in her eyes. She responded softly, "The path to survival is no different from a path to death. Doctor, please prescribe medicine for me. If everything goes smoothly, I believe I can still have a future." Su Yingxue's expression darkened and replied, "All right." She did not write the prescription but went to the medicine cabinet to fetch the medicine. Seeing that there were not many people in the hall, Su Yingxue sighed helplessly. She could already guess why this young lady chose this particular time to visit. It was indeed inconvenient for her to be seen. Su Yingxue brought back 2 sets of medicine and placed them on the table. She wrote down the instructions and pushed the medicine toward Xingping, explaining patiently, after drinking the first dose of medicine, the fetus will be aborted within 4 hours. At that time, you must start boiling the second dose. After the fetus is aborted, take the medicine immediately to stop bleeding. Otherwise, your life will be in danger. Do you understand? Xingping tucked the 2 sets of medicine into her arms and replied in a soft voice, I understand. Thank you, doctor. After settling the bill and taking the medicine, Xingping was about to leave. Su Yingxue noticed that she was wearing too many clothes, making her movement somewhat awkward. In the end, she could not help but hold her shoulder and exhorted, if you have the means, take good care of yourself. If there's another occurrence, you won't be able to conceive for the rest of your life. Xingping chuckled softly, her voice tinged with self-deprecation. She moved her lips as if to say that she might not be deserving of the blessing of having children in her life. However, she realized that she couldn't implicate Su Yingxue because of her own identity, so she merely curved her lips and said, Thank you, doctor. She was a compassionate and understanding doctor. After Xingping left, Su Yingxue had no appetite for lunch. She went straight to her mother's study and flipped through the medical books her mother had left behind. The more she read, the more she felt the profound sense of bitterness in her heart. Her mother was the most renowned female doctor, known throughout the world for her exceptional skills in healing and reviving the near-dead. Before marrying into the Marquis manor, she must have enjoyed immense fame and glory. But what about all the other women in the world? How many women had to endure miserable fates due to their humble origins? How many women, despite their intelligence and talents, were confined to living aimlessly within the confines of a courtyard? How many other women suffered from debilitating illnesses, without a soul to care for them? Women in this world had to endure so much hardship. For example, this lady today was dressed luxuriously, but she could not keep the child in her womb. Moreover, she had suffered multiple miscarriages, leading to weakness and blood deficiency. If she miscarried again today, her life would be in jeopardy. Are you worried about her? Ziwei stood silently behind Su Yingxue, and his hoarse voice resonated near her ear. Su Yingxue casually flipped through a page of the book. I am somewhat concerned, but I noticed the intricate patterns on her clothes and the pendant at her waist. Such items aren't common among ordinary wealthy families. She must be from a noble and prominent family, and she doesn't want to reveal her identity. There's something she cannot speak of. If I were to press her for answers, I would undoubtedly cause her harm. Therefore, without even asking for her name or identity, Su Yingxue allowed her to leave. I can follow her. Ziwei raised his eyes, and the deep purple color carried a dangerous aura. Chapter 112, Chu Yihan wants her to cure someone. Su Yingxue shook her head. No need, I wish her well in the future. She didn't like meddling in other people's affairs, and she couldn't handle everything anyway. However, she couldn't help but think that she had just started her medical practice, and this woman was one of her first patients. In this world, there were probably many women who were as unfortunate as her. She sighed softly, and her gaze returned to the medical book. She noticed that she had reached the last page, but it didn't contain medical content. Instead, there was a sentence written by her mother, women have it hard. If I can do a little to help, I'm willing to save women in this world from suffering. A small smile appeared on Su Yingxue's lips as she touched her mother's handwriting, feeling her mother's passion. If she had the ability, she would strive to be like her mother. In the afternoon, Su Yingxue saw more than 10 women, diagnosed their illnesses, and provided them with treatment advice. By the time she finished, the sky had already darkened. She planned to return to the residence with Ziwei, but after calling him a few times, he didn't appear. Where is he? She wondered. Normally, Ziwei wouldn't leave her side for even a moment, but now he seemed confident that she could go back alone. Su Yingxue shook her head. Forget it, she would go back by herself. However, halfway there, a carriage blocked her path. Halfway through her journey, a carriage blocked her path. Fortunately, she was familiar with the carriage and the face in the carriage. As soon as she approached, Chu Yihan extended a hand. Come up. Su Yingxue was pulled into the carriage by him, and Chu Yihan's expression wasn't quite pleasant. There's something one need your help with. What is it? Su Yingxue couldn't help but yawn. She was truly exhausted today, and her eyelids had been battling for some time, yet she was intercepted by Chu Yihan. I heard that you've been treating women lately. There's a woman who needs your help. Chu Yihan's dark, jade-like eyes seemed like an abyss, pulling people in. Su Yingxue perked up instantly. A woman you care a lot about? Chu Yihan patted her head. I don't care about her, but it's related to me. Su Yingxue rolled her eyes, whispering under her breath, you said you're not interested in women. He was so flirtatious with her, and now there was another woman he had a relationship with who needed her to save. All those rumors were just gossip. Humph. Although she felt a bit disgruntled, Su Yingxue couldn't escape from Chu Yihan. After Chu Yihan brought her to a mansion, he went straight into it. Su Yingxue didn't notice what was written on the plaque of the mansion. Chapter 113. The child isn't Chu Yihan's her maid, Lianer cried with heart-wrenching sobs. Princess, please hold on. Don't die. If you want to save your princess, leave the room first and stop crying here. Su Yingxue drove her away. Lianer was reluctant to leave Xingping's side, but under Su Yingxue's stern gaze, her trembling heart forced her to bite her lip and exit the room. Su Yingxue checked Xingping's pulse, administered acupuncture, and then entered the Medicine King Valley to retrieve blood-clotting grass. After grinding it into powder, she fed it to Xingping. She proceeded to cleanse Xingping's body, removing remnants of the afterbirth and applied medicinal herbs to stop the bleeding. With these tasks completed, Su Yingxue fed the medicine Xingping that she had prepared earlier in the day. Gradually, Xingping regained consciousness after consuming the medicine. Her pale lips moved as if she intended to speak. Su Yingxue advised her, your body is weakened now. Don't speak. Lie down and rest. I'll stay here tonight. You'll experience pain, but you must endure it. Xingping's tear-filled eyes conveyed gratitude since she couldn't speak. When Su Yingxue saw this, her heart ached even more. Although Su Yingxue had provided Xingping with numerous potent medicines, she understood that while these could heal the body, they couldn't mend a broken heart. After ensuring Xingping's well-being, Su Yingxue stormed out of the room and angrily shouted at Chu Yihan, despicable scoundrel. Chu Yihan furrowed his brows and retorted, what are you talking about? Her child has nothing to do with me. How could it not? If it weren't for your child, why did you bring me here in the middle of the night for her abortion? Do you have any idea how many times she's been through this? If I hadn't arrived in time this instance, she might not have survived. Su Yingxue's eyes were bloodshot, and she clenched her fists. She was itching to pummel Chu Yihan if she could. She wanted to give this bastard a good beating. He treated a weak woman like this. 2 words were written on Chu Yihan's cold face. He was wronged. He restrained Su Yingxue's fist, which was audibly cracking from the pressure, and spoke in a solemn tone, her situation has nothing to do with me, but her parents entrusted her life to me on their deathbeds. That's why I brought you here to save her. Listening to Chu Yihan's explanation, Su Yingxue's emotions became more complicated, but she remained convinced that Chu Yihan was nothing but a vile scoundrel. Always surrounded by beautiful women. There was Hong Lian before, and now there was the pitiable Xingping. Perhaps the tense atmosphere between the two of them was too scary. After Lianer finished taking care of Xingping, she knelt in front of Su Yingxue and cried as she explained, "Miss, please don't be angry. Our princess child truly has no relation to your highness. Furthermore, your highness has never set foot in the princess residence until today." Su Yingxue's frown deepened, and she asked, "Then who is your princess?" 5 years ago, the Yu kingdom was annihilated, and the royal family suffered heavy losses. Before the late emperor's passing, he exchanged the imperial seal for the princess life, pleading with your highness to bring the princess to the great Qing dynasty to save her life, Lianer explained in a calm voice. In that instant, Su Yingxue suddenly recalled that there was indeed a princess in the great Qing dynasty. She wasn't of royal blood but rather a princess from a fallen nation. And the Yu kingdom had been conquered by Chui Han himself 5 years ago. It had now become a part of the great Qing dynasty's territory. Upon closer consideration, Xingping did indeed have a connection with Chui Han, yet her maid had confirmed that the child was not his. As Su Yingxue gazed at Chui Han, her feelings became even more intricate. Chui Han saw that she had finally stopped beating him up, so he pulled her to sit down and patiently explained, "Just now, her maid came seeking help. She said that the princess' life was in danger. That's why I brought you here. I did not know about her exact condition." Chapter 114. She's too pitiful. When Chui Han brought her back 5 years ago, he secured a princess manor for her and told her that if her life was ever in danger, she could seek him out at the 9th prince's mansion. Little did he expect that when they reunited 5 years later, she would be in such a state. Chui Han's tone remained calm and unruffled, devoid of any sentiment. There was no trace of empathy or regret. However, Lianer felt wronged on behalf of Xingping. She knelt before Chui Han, tears streaming down her face as she pleaded, "Your Highness, please pardon me. The princess has endured so much suffering over these 5 years. She said that unless her life is at stake, she must not disturb your highness. Even tonight, she forbade me from seeking your highness' help. But I'm truly terrified that the princess won't survive." Princess Xingping was a rare beauty, her eyes shimmering like glass, exuding an enchanting allure. When ordinary men saw her like this or listened to Lianer's words, they would feel their hearts ache and be moved. However, Chui Han merely responded with a casual, She was not curious about what happened to Xingping, nor did she feel any pity for her. Su Yingxue suddenly felt that this man was too cold-blooded. After all, she was a beauty he had brought back from conquering the country. Didn't he feel sorry for her? Chui Han turned his head around, and as if he had seen through her thoughts, he said coldly, "Those unrelated to me won't elicit my sympathy." His words were truly cutting. Inside the bedroom, Xingping, her eyes blurred with tears, heard Chui Han's words, and her last emotional defense crumbled. Su Yingxue and Chui Han had stood vigil over Xingping throughout the night. When she awoke the next morning, Su Yingxue prepared another dose of medicine for her to take before departing. "Dr. Su, please wait." Xingping sat on the bed. The pain was unbearable, but she still insisted on bowing to Su Yingxue. "Dr. Su, I'm deeply indebted to you for saving my life." "Thank you." As a woman, Su Yingxue naturally felt sorry for her. She helped Xingping to sit up, and spoke gently, "One don't like to meddle in other people's business. But as your doctor, I hope that you can take good care of your body. Given your current situation, bearing children might not be advisable. Please, in the future, prioritize your well-being." A touch of melancholy flickered across Xingping's delicate face. "Thank you, Dr. Su. As for the future, let it be. Let it be." This was the first time Su Yingxue had heard a woman speak with such despair. What could have possibly transpired to lead this young girl to utter such words? Lianer had been serving Xingping since she was young. Seeing her like this, she cried heartbroken. "Princess, when will these days end? If no one protects you, in the future, you're going to be tortured to death by those people." She knelt before Chui Han, crying desperately. "Your Highness, please have mercy. Take the princess as your wife, offer her your protection. Princess is too pitiful. Lianer, don't spout nonsense. Come back." Xingping was always strong in front of Su Yingxue, but when Lianer cried and begged Chui Han, she panicked. The fragility in her eyes broke down in an instant, and her tears kept falling. Chui Han's brows furrowed, his deep, cold eyes exuding an unrelenting demeanor. "I will not marry her." Xingping clenched her lips tightly, suppressing the heartache that surged within her. "Xingping understands that she doesn't warrant your Highness' attention. I dare not hope for such a privilege." Lianer was just speaking casually. Lianer shook her head desperately. "No, Princess. I'm not saying this casually. Other than the Emperor, only 9th Prince can protect you. Only by marrying your Highness can you not be remembered by those thieves and not be bullied by them. Otherwise, your life will be in danger in the future." Chapter 115. He has already got love. Xingping carried a profound sense of sorrow, and even though Su Yingxue tried to distance herself from the situation, she couldn't shake off the lingering feeling of melancholy. She ventured to ask, "You mentioned that Princess Xingping was subjected to humiliation. Could it be that those who mistreated her were members of the royal family? Otherwise, how could Lianer assert that, apart from the Emperor, only Chui Han could protect her?" Despite being a princess of a fallen kingdom, Xingping was still a princess after all. It seemed unlikely that anyone, apart from those of the royal family, would dare to subject her to such humiliation, leading to multiple miscarriages. Xingping could only suppress her emotions and continue to sob quietly. Meanwhile, Lianer wept in silence. Su Yingxue instantly understood that she had guessed correctly. However, she genuinely wished to avoid getting involved in this affair. Chui Han also detected Su Yingxue's thoughts. He left a sentence, "I will have someone guard the princess manor." Then, he left with Su Yingxue. As Xingping watched him leave, his departure seemed cold and unfeeling, but his hand held Su Yingxue's hand tightly. The lingering doubts she had held for years were suddenly dispelled. It turned out that the man she deeply loved wasn't incapable of love. Instead, he was already in love. And that love was unique. Inside Chui Han's carriage, Su Yingxue was so tired that she was lying on the small table. However, the way she looked at Chui Han was still filled with disdain. Chui Han felt wronged. He poked Su Yingxue's soft cheek. "It's been proven that her situation has nothing to do with me. Why are you still looking at me that way?" Su Yingxue did not know where the anger came from. Perhaps she pitied the princess of a fallen country, or perhaps she was angry. Chui Han was good at attracting women. 1 or 2 of them were stunning women. How many other women were there around him? How many other women were still thinking about him and hoping to have a relationship with him? The more Su Yingxue thought about it, the angrier she got. She decided not to think about it anymore and not look at Chui Han, that scoundrel. Having stayed up all night, she fell asleep in that position. She didn't know how long she had slept. The sun shone in from outside the car window, and her body felt slightly hot. She rubbed her eyes and woke up. To her surprise, she was still in Chui Han's carriage. However, her sleeping position had shifted. She had moved from the small table to rest her head on Chui Han's lap. This man had an impressive physique. His powerful legs made for a comfortable pillow and a pleasant touch. Su Yingxue was still wrapped in a blanket. Chui Han gently pinched her delicate nose. "Doctor." Su, did you sleep well? Su Yingxue rubbed her face and put on a serious expression. I slept well. Goodbye, Your Highness. With that, she hopped out of the carriage, seemingly carefree and nonchalant. Chu Yihan looked at her with a complicated expression. Su Yingxue paid little heed to his reaction. She entered the Marquis Manor without a second thought, leaving him puzzled. The feeling was undeniably liberating. After all, Chu Yihan was surrounded by so many exceptional beauties. Chu Yihan sat in the car. Su Yingxue had been sleeping on his lap for a long time, so her faint body fragrance lingered on his lap. He lovingly caressed the place where she had pressed him just now. Before long, there was movement outside the carriage. Mo Cheat spat out a mouthful of blood, his breathing ragged. Master, I failed. I couldn't kill him and lost track of him. One haven't been able to locate his hiding place. Chu Yihan's deep eyes flickered with a dangerous glint as he stared at the Marquis Manor behind him. Hiding place. Right here. He didn't blame Mo Chi and said coldly, continue until you succeed in killing him. Chapter 116. He only knows how to kill, won't run. Yes, Your Highness. Should the shadow guards be mobilized? Mo Chi asked. He is not worthy, Chu Yihan said with cold arrogance, raising his hand with the authority of a superior, commanding submission. In the Marquis Manor, Su Yingxue had not returned the entire night. When she came back, the scent of blood reached her nose. She thought there might be someone injured in the courtyard, but later she discovered that the smell of blood was emanating from her room. Closing the door, Ziwei stood in the room like a statue. The deep purple at the corners of his eyes exuded an intense coldness, and his eyes seemed veiled by a crimson mist. Su Yingxue quickly took his pulse and realized he had returned with fresh injuries. She gritted her teeth and exclaimed angrily, Ziwei, why are you injured again? The previous poison had not yet been fully cured, and his internal injuries were not yet healed. Now, he had accumulated a fresh set of wounds. Are you testing my medical skills? Su Yingxue exclaimed in frustration. Ziwei was injured. Facing her accusation, he said in a cold and detached manner. No. Then how did you sustain these injuries? Chasing. Are you pursuing others? Or are you being pursued? Pursued. Then Su Yingxue knew that he was a person who could not communicate normally, so she could only treat his injuries first. After treating the wounds on his body, she pulled him to sit down and repeatedly reminded him, in the future, you're not allowed to fight even if you're being chased. Run if you can. Su Yingxue knew that he had many enemies in the past, and she worried for his safety. I won't run. Ziwei's voice was hoarse, yet stubborn. From the day he first held a sword, he learned one thing. He could fall, he could die, but he must never flee. Otherwise, he would fail his mission, and returning would be a death sentence. As a man without a true place to belong, he could only fight his way forward. Even if you want, you have to learn it. Whether you seek refuge in the medical hall or the Marquis Manor, you must come to my side. Even if you die, you can only die by my side. Do you understand? Su Yingxue shouted in anger. Ziwei's gaze softened slightly. Why? Because you are mine. No one can take your life except me. Su Yingxue's gaze was unwavering. I promise to heal you. One will make sure you live a long life. After one brought you back from the Silver Moon Pavilion, one won't let you die. You absolutely cannot die. Ziwei's chest trembled strongly. He agreed to Su Yingxue's demand. All right. Even if he had to die by her side. After Su Yingxue tended to his wounds, she accompanied him to the medical hall every day. It seemed as though she feared he would again risk his life. Whenever she had a moment's rest, she would call him out to ensure he was still by her side, still alive. On this day, a messenger arrived from Liang-jin, informing her of a court session the following day, and advising her to prepare. Su Yingxue smirked. Lord Wu's health has recovered so quickly. It seems he's eager to convict me. The messenger from Liang-jin thought Su Yingxue was exceedingly audacious. But following Liang-jin's instructions, he still delivered his message. Lord Liang wants to remind Miss Su that assaulting an official of the imperial court is a grave offense. It could result in a 10-year imprisonment or at the very least a severe flogging. Miss Su should be mentally prepared. Liang-jin would make a judgment based on the circumstances, but Su Yingxue would undoubtedly be subjected to punishment. Su Yingxue remained confident and replied with a faint smile, "Please convey my gratitude to Lord Liang." Seeing her composure, the messenger shook his head and reported back to Liang-jin. After Su Yingxue finished speaking, she noticed Su Hao's arrival. Chapter 117. Su Hao's intentions. He removed his battle armor and donned a black robe with embroidered cloud patterns. Tall, handsome, and full of charisma, he caught the attention of the young ladies on the street, causing them to pause and cast flirtatious glances. Intentionally, Su Yingxue blocked his path. "Brother, why bring so many gifts just to visit me?" Su Hao carried a jewelry box in his hand and a bundle in his arms, emitting a rosy fragrance. With a hint of apology in his smile, he said, "I rushed over from the military camp today and didn't have time to bring you a gift. If you want something, just let Xu Yan know. I'll make sure to bring it next time." Su Yingxue sighed softly, pretending to be jealous. "All of these are for Sister Jinyan. I didn't get anything." Su Hao wanted to rub her head, but his hands were full of things. He could only promise, "What do you want?" "I'll bring it to you next time." This time, it was too rushed. "These are all for Yenner's reference. Since she's managing a shop now, I need to get her things for reference." "Brother, is this just for reference? One suspect you visited every cosmetic store in Jiangdu City." Su Yingxue teased, looking at his abundance of items. Su Hao mentioned that he came from the military camp late, yet his dusty appearance didn't match his claimed origin. Seeing Su Hao struggling to respond, Su Yingxue playfully pushed him toward the stairs. "All right, brother, go. If one wants something, I won't hold back next time." "Humph." Su Hao turned back, flashing a smile before carrying his load to find Wu Jinyan. Su Yingxue leaned against the door and watched Su Hao go upstairs. At this moment, Jilan also came down after bringing medicine to Wu Jinyan. She approached Su Yingxue with an envious expression. "Miss, eldest young master is so good to Miss Jinyan." Miss Wu was shocked by the makeup and jewelry he brought. She didn't expect eldest young master to be so proactive and attentive. Su Yingxue smiled knowingly. "Brother isn't a libertine. He's always been attentive and caring towards loved ones." Even though he cared for Wu Jinyan, Su Yingxue knew she'd always have a place in his heart. "Miss, you have someone caring for you just like eldest young master. Moreover, the 9th prince, silly girl, what are you saying?" Su Yingxue covered her mouth and gave Jilan a warning look before leading her back to the treatment room. Jilan smirked. "One didn't even finish speaking, and you're already getting nervous. Clearly, you understand that your highness treats you well." "He treats me normally," Su Yingxue replied, her face cool. Chu Yihan had countless beautiful women around him, so there might be women around him with some connection. Jilan saw her indifference and grew more anxious. "Miss, please don't say that." Chapter 119, Trial 1. Wu Hongtao happened to look directly at her, his eyes brimming with hatred, resembling a fierce beast that longed to devour Su Yingxue in one gulp. Su Yingxue shrugged her shoulders, nonchalant as ever. It was as if she was not standing in the proper and solemn court but was sunbathing in her backyard. Wu Hongtao already hated Su Yingxue to the point that his teeth itched. One of his daughters had broken limbs and was recuperating at home. When he heard that his two sons' careers were ruined, he was so angry that he spat out blood. He was almost angered to death. Today, he was determined not to spare this wretched Su Yingxue. Silence. Liang Jin sat in a commanding position, dressed in official attire, exuding seriousness. Despite the pressure from Chuihan, he remained solemn and fair. Today, there is a case of Wu Hongtao suing Su Yingxue. 1. As the presiding official, am convening this court session. Are both the plaintiff, Wu Hongtao, and the defendant, Su Yingxue, present? Liang Jin's tone was authoritative. Wu Hongtao, with an agitated demeanor, declared, Lord Liang, 1 a.m. here. Su Yingxue is present, Su Yingxue responded calmly. Su Yingxue, Wu Hongtao accuses you of trespassing into his residence, injuring his daughter, as well as condoning your subordinates to harm his family members and servants, and damaging his property. Do you admit to these charges? Liang Jin's voice grew stern as he posed his question. Su Yingxue nodded and answered, replying to Lord Wu, I do not admit to these charges. I merely went to visit a friend and coincidentally encountered Lord Wu's daughter. One intervened when one saw she was abusing someone, and one saved her with no intention of harming her life. Contrary to Lord Wu's claims, one did not damage his property or permit any indiscriminate harm by my subordinates. Nonsense. My daughter is gentle and well-behaved. How could she attempt to take someone's life? Your words are nothing but fabrications. You not only injured my daughter but also left her with broken limbs. Wu Hongtao, agitated, pounded his cane on the ground, producing resounding thuds. The onlookers outside began to murmur amongst themselves. Liang Jin slammed his gavel, demanding an order, silence. Call forth the witnesses. Before long, several of Wu Hongtao's servants and Wu Ruofei appeared in the courtroom. Wu Ruofei appeared even more severely injured, bearing unexplained marks all over her body. Though she seemed unable to speak, her eyes bore a venomous hatred for Su Yingxue, fixating on her as if wishing to tear her apart and consume her whole. Su Yingxue furrowed her brows slightly, wondering how she had incurred such injuries. As the servants gave their statements, Su Yingxue turned her gaze toward Madame Wu, who was seated on the side of the courtroom. Though still exuding an air of elegance, her complexion appeared pallid, and wrinkles around her eyes were more pronounced. Upon catching Su Yingxue's gaze, their eyes locked in the air, akin to a venomous snake concealed within a shadowy cave, hissing its toxic intent toward her. In an instant, Su Yingxue grasped the situation. Madame Wu had been driven to desperation and resorted to ruthless measures. The more severe the injuries inflicted on Wu Ruofei, the harsher Liang Jin's verdict would be when determining Su Yingxue's punishment. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. A woman's heart was the most vicious. They had doted on Wu Ruofei since they were young, but now, in order to avenge their two sons, they had made Wu Ruofei into such a state. Su Yingxue looked at Wu Ruofei's tearful face and felt that she deserved it. When she tortured and killed Wu Jinyan, did she think that this day would come for her? While Su Yingxue was lost in thought, the servants had finished their testimonies. Liang Jin's brow furrowed upon hearing them, and he grew increasingly displeased with Su Yingxue, especially upon witnessing Wu Ruofei's injuries. If this were an ordinary case, he would surely have ordered Su Yingxue to jail and flogging. Yet, Liang Jin remained committed to seeing the case through to its end. Su Yingxue, given the presence of witnesses and physical evidence, and the extent of Wu Ruofei's injuries, your guilt is undeniable. I shall now deliver my verdict. Chapter 120, Trial, 2, Wait, Lord Liang, one wish to present my defense. Su Yingxue stepped towards Wu Ruofei. Liang Jin maintained a stern expression, saying, Go on. When I witnessed Wu Ruofei killing Wu Jinyan, I did engage in a confrontation with her, but she was not injured to this extent. It might be better to let her speak about the situation at that time. Su Yingxue raised an eyebrow and glanced at Wu Ruofei. Wu Ruofei opened her mouth and began speaking in an incomprehensible foreign language. Liang Jin noticed the issue and questioned, What is happening? Wu Ruofei, speak clearly. Wu Ruofei struggled to open her mouth. She managed to produce breath but couldn't utter anything understandable. Liang Jin promptly called for a doctor. Madame Wu hurriedly explained, Lord Liang, the doctor said that Ruofei suffered a significant emotional shock, affecting her ability to speak properly. On the day her limbs were broken, she was in excruciating pain. She is a young girl who has been traumatized by her injuries, which has led to her current state. As parents, we wish we could take her place. Our poor daughter is truly innocent. As Madame Wu spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. A mother who loved her children but felt powerless, that's what she looked like. Many of the commoners outside the courtroom were parents themselves. Seeing Madame Wu's distress, they expressed their sympathy. This is too much. How could she be so brutal? Absolutely. Which parent doesn't dote on their daughter? Look at those injuries. Madame Wu's daughter is so pitiable. Hearing these comments, Su Yingxue couldn't help but think that Madame Wu's ruthlessness was proving to be quite effective. Liang Jin also felt a deep sense of regret, and his gaze towards Su Yingxue grew even more somber. Before he could raise his gavel, Su Yingxue spoke up, Lord Liang, I am a doctor. I can immediately cure Miss Wu and enable her to speak. Liang Jin recalled this possibility and agreed, very well, go ahead. Having Miss Wu provide her testimony in person would be ideal. With permission granted, Su Yingxue was about to attend to Wu Ruofei when Lord Wu suddenly lunged forward, exclaiming, Stop. I will not allow you to touch my daughter. You shall not harm her again. A hint of guilt flickered in his eyes, revealing his complicity with Madame Wu in their actions against Wu Ruofei. Su Yingxue chuckled and said, Lord Wu, are you attempting to challenge Lord Liang? We are all in the courtroom of the capital prefecture. Do you truly believe that I would dare to harm Miss Wu in Lord Liang's presence? Lord Liang has always been fair and just, and he would never shield me. Su Yingxue's words were directed toward Liang Jin. Upon hearing this, Liang Jin's anger flared, and he retorted, Wu Hongtao, step back. I am well aware of Su Yingxue's medical skills. Should she dare to harm Wu Ruofei publicly, I will not let her escape justice. Lord Liang, this Su Yingxue is cunning and treacherous. Her methods are devious. Are you questioning my judgment? Liang Jin's tone turned icy. Wu Hongtao felt as if he had bitten into a bitter gourd. Unable to voice his bitterness, he swallowed it down forcefully. Madame Wu was equally distressed. She had administered medicine to Wu Ruofei, temporarily impairing her ability to speak. She aimed to prevent Wu Ruofei from potentially causing further trouble with her words. If Su Yingxue were to cure her. Su Yingxue. Madame Wu ground her teeth, aching to tear her to pieces on the spot. Su Yingxue retrieved a silver needle, piercing it into the back of Wu Ruofei's neck. She delivered a firm slap to Wu Ruofei's back and then opened her mouth. After a short while, Wu Ruofei began to vomit. Chapter 121. Pleased after she finished vomiting, she immediately pointed at Su Yingxue and cursed, Su Yingxue, you bitch, that hurts so much. Su Yingxue spread her hands innocently. Everyone in the hall is a witness. One induced vomiting to help you speak. She turned to look at Liang Jin. Lord Liang, Miss Wu can already speak. Liang Jin stroked his beard, his admiration for Su Yingshu's medical skills increasing further. It's all because of you. Su Yingshu, it's all you do that I've ended up with this. My whole body hurts, I'm in so much pain. Sob, 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 Wu Ruofei cried heartrendingly. I didn't cause your injuries. What's the use of yelling at me? Su Yingshu retorted disdainfully. Wu Ruofei continued crying out. If it weren't for you, why would my parents do this to me? Sob, sob, sob. My injuries weren't originally this severe. It's all because of you. You harmed my brothers, and that's why they hit me. That's why one ended up like this. Wu Hongtao hastily covered Wu Ruofei's mouth, his face turning red with anger. You fool! What nonsense are you spouting? Su Yingshu shrugged her shoulders. This was Wu Ruofei's nature. Her brain was merely a decoration. With a little enticement, she would reveal the truth on her own. Ruofei, don't be so confused and blurt out nonsense. Your injuries were caused by Su Yingshu. Madame Wu sternly reminded her, her unyielding anger repeatedly tormenting her. How could she have raised such a foolish person? Not only was Wu Ruofei in so much pain, but she was also being scolded. She felt so wrong that she did not dare to speak again. However, Liang Jin had heard every word she said just now. He pointed angrily at Wu Hongtao. Wu Hongtao. You even attacked your daughter and obstructed my trial. I will sentence you and your wife to 10 strokes. In being wronged, Lord Liang. It's all Su Yingshu's fault. She bewitched my daughter. Wu Hongtao trembled all over, his heart now filled with a desire to kill Su Yingshu. He had already endured numerous lashings, today he was enduring 10 more. This might just cost him his life. Don't talk nonsense. Men, execute the punishment immediately. Liang Jin acted swiftly, instructing his officers to position Wu Hongtao and Madame Wu in the hall. Each received 10 lashes before the trial continued. After the lashings, Wu Hongtao could barely stand straight. Madame Wu's blood-red eyes were still filled with hatred. One don't believe it. I refuse to believe that Su Yingshu will escape punishment. The beating she was enduring now was bound to be repaid upon Su Yingshu. Wu Ruofei didn't expect that her random words would cause her parents to be beaten up. She watched them being beaten up and was stunned. After her parents were beaten up, she fainted from shock. Within the capital prefecture, there was no shortage of doctors. The doctors and the female bailiffs came to examine Wu Ruofei's injuries. After the examination, they confirmed that Wu Ruofei's limbs were broken and the injuries on her body were new. Although Wu Hongtao and his wife obstructed the integrity of the case, Su Yingshu, it is a fact that Wu Ruofei's limbs were broken. You caused this. Do you admit it? Liang Jin demanded sternly. Faced with this accusation, Su Yingshu knew that denying it would be futile. She nodded and said, indeed, one did break Miss Wu's limbs. In that moment of desperation, I injured her while trying to save Wu Jinyan. Chapter 122. A backhand slap, no matter the circumstances, causing harm in public is wrong. Additionally, you previously assaulted Wu Hongtao on the street. Both these incidents have witnesses and evidence. Am I stating the facts correctly? Su Yingshu pursed her lips. No. Then I shall pronounce the sentence. You, Lord, please wait. A voice from outside the hall rang out, that was Wu Jinyan's voice. Su Yingshu frowned and glanced over. Sister Jinyan, I told you there was no need to come. I can handle the situation today. Wu Jinyan formally declared her identity and, being a witness, Liang Jin permitted her entry into the courtroom. She walked over to Su Yingshu's side and spoke gently, "Your troubles were caused for my sake. How could I just stand by?" Su Yingshu was unsure of how to respond. Originally, she was concerned about Wu Jinyan's feelings. After all, it was her father and family who were facing her in court today. Wu Jinyan stood with a dignified posture in front of Liang Jin. "Lord, my presence is crucial in this case. Regarding the details of Su Yingshu's assault that day, I have something to say." Liang Jin maintained his impartiality. "Please proceed." Wu Jinyan had also brought an elderly maid with her. This elderly maid had taken care of Wu Jinyan in the past and had been in the minister's estate for over a decade. However, her status was low. Every time she saw Wu Jinyan being bullied, she could only feel sorry for her, but she could not save her. Now, Wu Jinyan had brought her to speak the truth. On that day, Miss Jinyan's life hung by a thread. If not for Miss Su's timely intervention, Miss Ruofei would have tortured her Miss Jinyan to death. While Miss Su's actions were unintentional, Miss Ruofei refused to release Miss Jinyan, leading to a struggle. It was during this altercation that Miss Su accidentally injured Miss Ruofei. "I have been served in the minister's estate for 20 years, Miss Jinyan has always lived a cautious life, which is why she has been able to grow to this day. She is pitiful. Miss Su did it to save her life. I hope that Lord will take into account Miss Su's eagerness to save others and sentence Miss Su lightly." The elderly maid kowtowed Liang Jin repeatedly, and Liang Jin suddenly felt emotional. Wu Hongtao regained some strength and stood up, proceeding to kick the elderly maid. "You wretched slave! What use is there in keeping you? Get out of the minister's estate. And you, Wu Jinyan." Without hesitation, he slapped her forcefully, causing her to fall to the ground. "I am your father. When have I mistreated you? Now, you've conspired with outsiders, harmed your sister, and even testified against your own father. You are an unfaithful and unfilial wretch. I don't have a daughter like you. Wu Hongtao, you're asking for trouble." Su Yingshu helped Wu Jinyan up, and a murderous look appeared in her eyes. Wu Hongtao trembled in fear, but before Liang Jin, he was not afraid that Su Yingshu would make a move. However, what truly terrified him was Wu Jinyan. Releasing Su Yingshu's hand, Wu Jinyan softly reassured her, "I'm fine." Though Wu Jinyan's face was flushed red, it didn't diminish her elegant and refined beauty. She faced Wu Hongtao and straightened her back. "Father, that slap just now severed all ties with the past." Wu Hongtao sneered, "You're not even worthy to speak such words to me. Your mother was a prostitute back then. I took her in out of pity. And now, you're emulating her lowly ways, shamelessly seducing others. I should have, smack." Wu Jinyan backhandedly slapped Wu Hongtao across the face. The atmosphere immediately grew tense. Even in Su Yingshu's exquisitely beautiful eyes, there was an expression of disbelief. The usually gentle and cautious Wu Jinyan had struck her father. Chapter 123, The past is broken. There's no connection. It seemed as if he couldn't believe it and was slow to react. Only when he felt a searing pain on his face did Wu Hongtao realize that his daughter had just slapped him. You. He was so infuriated that he could not speak for a long time. Wu Jinyan stared at him, her voice unwavering. "My mother was involved in prostitution, but she was born into a respectable family. It was only after she was abducted and brought here that she suffered. But what about you? You tormented her, brought her into this household, yet never once cared for her. She died at the age of 30, Tears streamed down Wu Jinyan's resolute face as she continued, "And after my mother passed away, how did you treat me? You never fulfilled the responsibilities of a husband or a father, but you did give me life and raise me. So, for all these years, regardless of the humiliations I endured from Madam and my sister, one never held any grudge against you as my father. However, do you deserve to be called father by me again? You rebellious daughter, how dare you utter such words? Madam's indulgence has spoiled you." Wu Hongtao appeared like a clown whose mask had been stripped off, enraged and humiliated. He resorted to hitting and verbally abusing Wu Jinyan. Wu Jinyan endured each blow and insult, calmly stating, "Today, we sever our ties. From now on, there will be no connection between us." Wu Hongtao's anger overwhelmed him, causing him to faint. What a daughter, and what a daughter raised by a woman with a scandalous past. When Liang Jin saw Wu Hongtao faint, he immediately waved his hand and asked someone to carry him to the side hall. He called for a doctor to examine Wu Hongtao. The doctor diagnosed him with an episode of anger-induced distress, questioning if he could continue the trial today. Liang Jin turned around and glanced at Wu Jinyan. His heart ached for her, but he was helpless. His attention shifted to Su Yingxue, and a spark of hope emerged. "Su Yingxue, let's conclude today's proceedings. If you can revive Lord Wu, I will adjourn this case today." Liang Jin detested unnecessary delays. When the facts were clear, he loathed prolonging matters. Across the entire capital prefecture, who knew how many pending cases awaited resolution? "Lord Liang, let's adjourn the session for today." Chu Yihan entered the side hall, his authoritative voice laden with immense pressure that made even breathing difficult. Approaching Su Yingxu's side, Wu Jinyan stood by her. Liang Jin's expression revealed his dilemma. "Ninth Prince, given your esteemed position, you must understand that prolonging this case is not advisable. Do you disregard my words, Lord Liang?" Chu Yihan's intense gaze cast a deeper weight upon Liang Jin's shoulders. He found himself momentarily speechless. "Lord Liang, after you complete the trial, I'll cooperate with you to revive Lord Wu. However, I wish to treat him privately, with all of you leaving the room." Su Yingxue held a notebook beneath her arm, appearing carefree and innocently girlish. Liang Jin shook his head decisively. "I must oversee your treatment of Lord Wu. After all, your medical skills are quite extraordinary." Her ability to cure his madam, rescue Consort Xiang, and elicit the truth from Wu Ruofei with a single needle left Yang Jin somewhat suspicious of her methods. As the capital governor, he was bound to maintain fairness and impartiality. "Lord Liang, my expertise is in medicine, not sorcery. One can't manipulate a person, and I certainly won't bring harm to Lord Wu." Su Yingxu's expression held genuine innocence. The weight Chu Yihan exerted upon Liang Jin was substantial. Thus, he was unwilling to take any risks. What if this lady relied on Chu Yihan's power to kill Wu Hongtao? With Chu Yihan around, this was not impossible. Chapter 124. Reversal. Chu Yihan asked Su Yingxue, "Do you want to speak to him alone?" Su Yingxue nodded, her bright eyes radiating a lovable charm. Chu Yihan promptly escorted Liang Jin out. Wu Jinyan and the doctor also tactfully exited the room. Liang Jin remained concerned. "Your Highness, this isn't advisable. It goes against the protocol." "What if Su Yingxue, my word is the protocol." Inside the room, Su Yingxue burst into laughter upon hearing Chu Yihan's words. "Indeed, he was a truly domineering Your Highness." She approached the bedside, administering a few needles to Wu Hongtao. Then, she gave Wu Hongtao a pill and he woke up. Seeing her by his bedside, Wu Hongtao would have preferred to faint once again. He shut his eyes and let out a disdainful snort, don't think that saving me will make me spare you, Su Yingxue. Don't even dream of evading your culpability. Sigh, Lord Wu, whether I evade culpability or not is another matter. Why don't you consider how you can absolve yourself of guilt? Su Yingxue playfully slapped the account book onto Wu Hongtao's face. Wu Hongtao opened the account book, gritting his teeth with anger. Su Yingxue, you dare! Before he could finish, he read the words on the account book and his heart tightened instantly, his face turning pale. This. How? How did this end up in her hands? How did she know? Wu Hongtao felt like the sky was crashing down on him. Upon waking, Liang Jin even examined Wu Hongtao's condition before resuming the trial. Wu Hongtao's complexion was so poor, he seemed like a tottering kite that could collapse at any moment. Liang Jin couldn't help but worry. Lord Wu, can you manage to attend the trial? Wu Hongtao stuttered. He wanted to say that he couldn't go through with it. Was it important for him to attend the court now? However, with Su Yingxue standing in the courtroom, smiling at him, Wu Hongtao nearly choked himself. He exhaled heavily. Proceed to the courtroom. 111 Admit my wrongdoing. Liang Jin's mind was filled with doubts. As the court session resumed, Wu Ruofei was carried away, and Madame Wu was called in as a witness. In response to the testimonies of Wu Jinyan and the elderly maid, Madame Wu also led her servants into the courtroom. Lord Liang, Wu Jinyan openly assaulted her biological father, which is a display of unfilial behavior. Her mother was a courtesan, and I, as the mistress of the house, have never looked down upon her. I treated her with the utmost respect and even granted her the status of a concubine. However, her actions are beyond what the minister's estate can tolerate. While she was once dissatisfied with the treatment she received at the minister's estate, my expenditures as the mistress might not even exceed hers. Thus, this situation arose. After her untimely demise, I treated her daughter, Jin Yan, as my own. Yet, despite all this, she still managed to cause trouble. Jin Yan was dissatisfied with me, the mistress, and even conspired with outsiders. It's truly heartbreaking. With Madame Wu's superb acting skills, she cried whenever she wanted in the hole. Wu Jinyan was so angry that her face turned red and her hands clenched into fists. Su Yingxue comforted her by patting her hand, saying, "Sister, don't be anxious." Upon hearing her mother being insulted, Wu Jinyan felt a surge of indignation. After Su Yingxue's reassuring words, she suddenly calmed down. Did you prepare for this? Su Yingxue nodded. Yes, sister, don't worry. Wu Jinyan and Su Yingxue stood together in the courtroom, listening to Madame Wu's tearful account. Meanwhile, Liang Jin contemplated how to make a fair judgment. Smack! Suddenly, the crisp sound of a slap echoed through the air. Liang Jin was momentarily stunned. Wu Jinyan could hardly believe it either. But the most stinging blow was felt by Madame Wu. Chapter 126. Pleased, you harmed my daughter, my son. It's all because of you that our family has ended up like this. Both you and Wu Jinyan should die. You both deserve to die. Liang Jin swiftly summoned his men. Roar in court. Capture her. Madame Wu was subdued by Liang Jin's bailiffs. Despite Liang Jin's repeated attempts to dissuade her, Madame Wu continued her tirade. Growing annoyed, Liang Jin had no choice but to sentence her. Disrupting the court, disrespecting me, 30 lashes. No. That's not how it should be. Liang Jin, you, the capital governor, should have beaten Su Yingxue to death. She deserves to die. Madame Wu shouted at the top of her lungs, saliva dripping from the corner of her mouth. She had been the madam of a minister for many years, and all her years of dignity and image had been destroyed today. Both she and Wu Hongtao couldn't escape Liang Jin's punishment. Liang Jin beat them up in public. Once the beating was done, they were carried away by their servants. Many commoners who had attended the hearing witnessed the entire trial and cast scornful glances at them. Some even pelted them with rotten eggs and vegetables. Su Yingxue stood beside Wu Jinyan and asked her, "Sister Jinyan, do you feel relieved?" Wu Jinyan managed a bitter smile. "Yes, I do." However, she had also severed ties with her biological father. Now, she felt a sense of relief. Outside the courtroom, Su Hao was waiting. Su Yingxue waved at him and wanted to walk over with Wu Jinyan. Behind them, Liang Jin suddenly approached. "Miss Su, please wait. One have something to discuss with you." Su Yingxue nudged Wu Jinyan. "Sister, you and brother can leave first." "Wait, Yingxue, are you alright? I'll ask your brother to come and stay with you." Wu Jinyan was nervously sweating. She hadn't had a chance to ask Su Yingxue how she managed to get Wu Hongtao to confess and apologize to her. With the case now concluded, and Liang Jin preventing her from leaving, she couldn't help but feel worried. "No need, brother rarely has free time. He needs to accompany you to the shop for decoration. Although I'm investing, if brother wants to contribute, I won't refuse." Su Yingxue smiled, reassuring Wu Jinyan to leave with Su Hao. She followed Liang Jin to the back hall. In the back hall, Liang Jin had someone prepare tea. After interrogating the case for half a day, Liang Jin's mouth was dry. He thought that Su Yingxue was the same. Su Yingxue finished her tea and looked at Liang Jin. "Lord Liang, do you want to ask if one poisoned Lord Wu?" Liang Jin shook his head. "I had a doctor examine Lord Wu's pulse, and there are no signs of poisoning. Even if I were to ask, Miss Su might not tell me. It's best not to inquire." A trace of surprise flickered in Su Yingxue's eyes. Liang Jin was indeed perceptive and had a deep understanding. "Then, Lord Liang, what would you like to discuss?" Liang Jin nodded. "Miss Su, you're intelligent. Since the court is adjourned, 1 a.m. no longer an official. Speaking as an elder, one wished to have a conversation with Miss Su. Miss Su, are you aware that before the court session, the 9th prince visited me and said something?" Su Yingxue shook her head. "I am not aware." She hadn't paid attention to Chu Yihan's whereabouts. "Your Highness stated that if one were to harm you even slightly, he would reduce my capital prefecture to ruins." Liang Jin's tone grew somber. Su Yingxue's brow twitched. She hadn't expected Chu Yihan to be so, well, there was nothing to be surprised about. In front of the emperor, Chu Yihan was domineering and fierce, and he might not even give a face to him, let alone Liang Jin. Chapter 127, A strange woman like her mother. However, his words were undeniably too harsh. Raised to the ground, Su Yingxue pondered for a moment. Looking at the current state of the room, if it were raised to the ground, she might now be sitting amidst the swirling dust, having tea with Liang Jin. But as she observed Liang Jin's expression, she cautiously inquired, "Lord Liang, do you think that I am acting recklessly because one have your Highness support?" "Miss Su, isn't that the case?" Liang Jin stepped down from the platform, revealing a trace of helplessness in his eyes. "Lord Liang, I won't accept the blame because I don't believe I've done anything wrong," Su Yingxue said firmly. If she hadn't been concerned about Wu Jinyan and gone to the minister's estate, Wu Jinyan might have ended up as a lifeless body by now. As for Wu Hongtao's family, who condoned the crime, they would have escaped unscathed. On what grounds? Was Wu Jinyan's life not a life? Miss Su, wasn't it wrong for you to intrude into the minister's estate? Breaking Wu Ruofai's limbs, wasn't that wrong? Before she could respond, Liang Jin interjected, I understand your sympathy for Wu Jinyan. As the governor of the capital prefecture, I also recognize the injustice she's suffered. However, the crux of the matter lies in her failure to report these grievances to the authorities. Even if it were common citizens, I might still comprehend it. But you and Wu Jinyan, one being the legitimate daughter of the Marquis Manor and the other the daughter of a minister, what status do you both hold? Shouldn't you abide by the law? What purpose does the legal system of the Great Qing dynasty serve? Liang Jin's expression was filled with regret, and his tone grew even more solemn. Lord Liang, if women of the Great Qing dynasty could live worry-free lives after reporting to the authorities, I would gladly admit my mistake and take responsibility for my actions. Su Yingshu's demeanor turned grave. Morally and logically, she hadn't done anything wrong. However, from a legal standpoint, she admitted she was wrong. Liang Jin's expression darkened slightly, but as the governor of the capital prefecture, he remained resolute. Miss Su, the law surpasses all else. Even if a prince commits a crime, he should face the same consequences as a commoner. Had these words come from another official's mouth, Su Yingxue might have considered it a jest. However, she trusted the words spoken by Liang Jin. That's why she confessed to him. Lord Liang, my actions were indeed impulsive. Liang Jin showed a glimmer of relief. Your acknowledgement makes this trial worthwhile, and my words haven't been in vain. Miss Su, you truly are a reasonable woman. You are indeed the daughter of Princess Shu Li. Lord Liang is familiar with my mother as well. Su Yingshu's heart skipped a beat. Liang Jin smiled. I had the privilege of witnessing her grace once. Although one never had the chance to meet Princess Shu Li in person due to her early passing, her reputation spread far and wide. Aside from her medical expertise, her character and conduct were truly commendable. In our Great Qing dynasty, there's hardly a woman with a more forthright demeanor than Princess Shu Li. A trace of sorrow flashed across Su Yingshu's eyes. Indeed, she had been born too late. She had never even seen her mother. Now, she had to rely on others to learn about her mother's life. Miss Su, I didn't mean to stir up your grief. The purpose of my words today is merely to remind you, as the esteemed daughter of the Marquis Manor, that you must think twice before doing anything. If you want to save someone, there is always a better way than barging into the estate and causing a ruckus. Liang Jin said earnestly. After saying this, he didn't say anything else. He was willing to speak at length because he admired Su Yingxue. Chapter 128, Cold Jade Token. If she could adhere to the law and truly bring those of ill intent to justice, then she would indeed be an unparalleled exceptional woman in the world. Liang Jin hoped to witness such an admirable woman in his lifetime. After all, treating women fairly wasn't truly a commonplace occurrence in this world. Liang Jin's words spurred deep reflection. Su Yingxue found herself pondering, perhaps she had been too impulsive. From now on, she would have to be more cautious in the future. Lost in thought, she failed to notice her surroundings and suddenly collided with an unexpected obstacle. Hiss, rubbing her head, she looked up and saw Chui Han in his resplendent purple gold robe. His handsome features and enigmatic eyes were captivating in every way. Once again, she found herself entranced by his countenance. Get in the carriage. Chui Han skillfully guided her into the carriage of the prince's mansion. Su Yingxue couldn't help but mutter, Your Highness, are you planning to level the capital prefecture city? Isn't this a bit domineering? Chui Han held Su Yingshu's jade pendant, and a mischievous glint flashed in his eyes. If the minister's estate has vexed you to such an extent, I could obliterate it first. Su Yingxue was rendered speechless. That was too terrifying. However, his words were heartwarming. In Chu Yihan's presence, Su Yingxue playfully pouted and retorted, "Lord Liang reminded me not to be so impulsive in barging into the residence. There are better ways to deal with people." Chu Yihan ruffled her hair. "That makes sense. Your Highness, how do you think I could have saved Sister Jinyan in that situation?" Su Yingxue felt relaxed in front of Chu Yihan, so she started chatting with him. Chu Yihan retrieved a jade pendant from his waist. It was an intricately carved token made of cold jade, which he handed to Su Yingxue. "If you had held this at the time, you could have entered the minister's estate openly, taken Wu Jinyan away, and no one in the minister's estate would have dared to object." Su Yingxue played with the token. The cold jade was pure white but had an effect contrary to its name. It emanated warmth. "What is this? Can it intimidate the people of the minister's estate?" "It's my royal token." Su Yingxue was shocked. She held the cold jade in her hands and extended it toward Chu Yihan. "Your Highness, you should put it away quickly." Chu Yihan showed no intention of retrieving it. "Things I bestow are not meant to be taken back." Su Yingxue was filled with bewilderment. When did it turn into a gift? She promptly handed it back to Chu Yihan. "Your Highness, one haven't said I want to accept it." Chu Yihan pulled her into his arms and put the cold jade around her neck. The cold jade, upon contact, emitted warmth that gradually spread, causing her heart to race. "Your Highness, this isn't, if you don't accept it, it'll take you back to the mansion." "I accept." Su Yingxue shrunk her neck. She was terrified. Taking a token was much easier than being brought back to the residence by Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan nodded. "Next time you encounter any trouble or wish to enter any place, just show this token. No one will obstruct you." Touching the cold jade on her chest, Su Yingxue sensed that Chu Yihan was conveying, "Feel free to cause a ruckus, one will indulge you." As a result, she ventured hesitantly, "Could one barge into the palace?" Chu Yihan didn't immediately respond, instead pressing his lips together. In moments of silence, his imposing presence weighed heavily upon the atmosphere. Su Yingxue grumbled inwardly that she had indeed overthought things. However, Chu Yihan pinched her delicate nose and reminded her, "You're forbidden from barging into the imperial brother's chambers. As for other places, do as you please." Su Yingxue was left bewildered. There was always light at the end of the tunnel. Chapter 129, Princess Shengping's Gift of Thanks. Oh no, how could she think like this? Was she, Su Yingxue, that kind of person? Even if she could break the palace, she wouldn't use Chu Yihan's token to barge in, would she? But what if? A warm sensation spread through Su Yingxue's palm. However, it was accompanied by the weight of the cold jade. Chu Yihan had already given her the token. How could she repay Chu Yihan for such an important thing? As if understanding her internal struggle, Chu Yihan didn't give her a chance to refuse him. Chu Yihan instructed her to keep the token close to her body, then held her hand as he said, "With this, you won't need to fear anything in the future. Not even my imperial brother can easily accuse you." Ultimately, Su Yingxue's heart was engulfed by that warmth. She smiled. "All right." Stepping down from the carriage, the warmth still radiated within her, her heart pounding. All of it came from Chu Yihan. She returned to the treatment room and saw a hooded woman standing at the door. Su Yingxue immediately stuffed the cold jade back into her clothes and walked over calmly. Princess Xingping seemed ready to kneel in respect, but Su Yingxue hurriedly held her arm and helped her stand up. "Princess, what are you doing? Technically, one should be the one showing respect." Xingping was humble. "I'm just a princess from a fallen kingdom. I'm nothing, but Miss Su is the daughter of the Marquis Manor." In this great Qing dynasty, you can be considered the head of the noble ladies. The head of the noble ladies. Su Yingxue smiled, a trace of amusement in her expression. She had never adorned herself with such accolades. But Princess Xingping's words weren't entirely unfounded, were they? Princess, please enter the treatment room. Su Yingxue knew that it was inconvenient for Xingping to show her face, so she took her into the treatment room and closed the door. There were only two of them. Xingping was not that nervous. Su Yingxue proposed, Princess, if you don't mind, could you remove your hood and veil? Let me assess your complexion and then determine the appropriate treatment. After Xingping nodded, she revealed her face. Su Yingxue looked at her carefully. She was really beautiful. She exuded a fresh and elegant aura from the inside out. She grew up in the royal family. Even if the country was fallen, she could still see the elegance of a princess from Xingping. Especially when she smiled, her lips curved delicately, making people feel that peach blossoms were blooming in front of them, dazzling and eye-catching. After thoroughly assessing her pulse, Su Yingxue prescribed warming herbs for her. Expressing her gratitude once more, Xingping instructed Lianer to bring several medical books. She smiled and handed them to Su Yingxue. These books are treasures from the royal palace of the Yu Kingdom. I lack valuable possessions, and these mundane offerings hardly qualify as proper gratitude for Dr. Su. Please accept these medical books, Dr. Su, and forgive any perceived inadequacy. The gift resonated with Su Yingxue's taste. Su Yingxue smiled and accepted the book. Since you're offering them, I won't stand on ceremony. Her forthright personality made Xingping feel better. She had never liked owing people anything. Even though she had been tortured, she had never spoken to Chuihan. If it wasn't for the fact that her life was at stake, she wouldn't have had the chance to see Chuihan again. Xingping was determined to repay Su Yingxue for saving her life. Su Yingxue flipped through 2 pages of the medical book and found that Xingping was sincerely grateful to her. She could not understand the Yu Kingdom's characters, but Xingping used the characters of the Great Qing dynasty to make annotations. Her handwriting was beautiful and pleasing to the eye. She had wanted to close the book and tell Xingping about her illness. However, she accidentally brought it to the last page and realized that there was a picture on the page. Her eyes widened. Chapter 130. The Empress of Yu's best friend. She took out the medical book left behind by her mother from the drawer and flipped to the last page. She placed the 2 books together and realized that the patterns in both books were the same. They were only half drawn. When put together, it formed the image of an auspicious cloud. What's going on? Su Yingxue's heart was pounding intensely. Princess, you mentioned that you brought this book from the Yu Kingdom's imperial palace. How did the Yu Kingdom's imperial palace obtain it? This pattern. Do you know what this pattern represents? Su Yingxue hastily pushed the 2 books in front of Xingping and asked urgently. Xingping was also somewhat puzzled. This book has been cherished by my mother. I've seen this pattern before. When I was young, my mother mentioned that she and her close friend drew this together. They each contributed half of the drawing. On every book that my mother owned, this pattern would be depicted. As she spoke, she opened the other 2 books. The last pages of both books featured the same pattern. Su Yingxue held the medical book left behind by her mother, and her hand trembled. Did her mother know the Empress of the Yu Kingdom? Princess, could you please try to recall more about your mother? Her friend's identity. Have you ever met this friend? Xingping shook her head. I've only heard my mother mention it. My mother is of noble status in the Yu Kingdom, and her close friend is naturally of high rank as well. There's more than one such friend, but I can't remember who it is at the moment. Princess, please think carefully. This is related to my mother. Su Yingxue urgently pleaded. Xingping furrowed her brows. Could it be that Su Yingxue's mother was the person who knew her mother? Dr. Su, our princess has just sustained an injury and hasn't fully recovered. It might not be easy for her to remember right now. How about you give her a few days to rest and recover? If she recalls anything, she can inform you later. Liana requested on Xingping's behalf. Despite her impatience, Su Yingxue could only nod in agreement. Thank you, princess. Her mind was consumed with thoughts about her mother's connection to the Yu Kingdom's royal family, and she failed to notice the curiosity in Xingping's eyes. Xingping put on her veil and hood again and took Lianer back to the princess manor. On the way, Lianer smiled. Princess, with Dr. Su thinking about you, your days will be much better. If she wanted to know about her mother, she would protect you. After leaving the clinic, Xingping no longer forced herself to stay alert. The smile faded from her face, replaced by bitterness. For someone like me, being alive is already a burden. Why would I want her to protect me? Am I going to burden her? Princess, please don't speak like that. You are also a princess. If it weren't for the 9th prince, that's enough. Don't discuss your highness. Xingping closed her eyes, locking away all the pain within. She had never held any resentment towards Chui Han, the one who had conquered the capital of the Yu Kingdom. Her parents had sacrificed their lives for their country, and it wasn't Chui Han who had forced them to. As the enemy's commander, Chui Han spared her life and even allowed her to live in the Great Qing dynasty for several years. That was already a considerable favor. Even without him, another country would likely have seized the opportunity to invade the Yu Kingdom. At that time, her humiliation might have been even more severe than it was now. Chui Han couldn't be blamed for her country's fall. And why didn't she tell Su Yingxue directly? Why did she keep her hanging? It wasn't because she wanted her to protect her, but because it would provide her with more opportunities to see Chui Han, even if just briefly, even if they couldn't exchange words. She wanted to see him more. Back then, the image of the iron horse and spear breaking through the city gate was truly awe-inspiring. Chapter 131. Deduct your candies. Smoke filled the air, and the Yu Kingdom's imperial palace lay in ruins. The 12-year-old girl watched as her father trembled on the dragon throne, writing the letter of surrender, while her mother held her in her arms, tears streaming down her face. With the Qingfeng sword in his hand, Chui Han took the letter of surrender and promised the man on the dragon throne that he would not kill the people of the Yu Kingdom, pledging to protect the last of his bloodline. As soon as he finished speaking, Xingping saw his father crash into the pillar in the hole. Her mother rushed over, took out a sharp knife that she had hidden in her arms, and stabbed it at herself. Father, mother. At that moment of Xingping's crying out, a large hand covered her eyes. When she opened her eyes again, she was already on a warhorse with Chui Han. Chui Han's cold voice echoed, "Yu Kingdom has fallen. I will bring you to the Great Qing dynasty. From now on, that's where you'll live. If your life is in danger, you can come to me." Xingping's trembling hand grasped a corner of his clothing as she choked out, "All right." Wherever his warhorse passed, there were corpses strewn about. Xingping saw Chui Han intervening whenever commoners were being mistreated. If any soldiers tried to harm her, Chui Han would eliminate them. She was the only prize Chui Han brought back to the Great Qing dynasty, yet he never demanded anything from her. However, she asked carefully about the piece of clothing she had taken from him back then. "Can I have it?" Chui Han swung his long sword, severing the piece of fabric. Xingping pinched the piece of clothing stained with old blood and stuck it to her face. She hugged it gently and fell asleep. By the time Su Yingxue had finished seeing her patients in the afternoon, the clinic was being closed by Manager Qi. He found her still in the treatment room. He stepped forward to remind her, "Miss, please take care of yourself. Don't overexert." With a heavy expression, Su Yingxue replied, "I'll read the medical books a little longer. You all can head back." Manager Qi bowed and replied, "Understood." Su Yingxue was left alone in the medical hall, and she was getting more and more irritated. She called Ziwei a few times, but there was no response. Only when she was so exhausted that she nearly dozed off on the table did she notice a dark figure. There was a trace of blood on Ziwei, causing Su Yingxue to furrow her brows. "What happened? Are you injured again?" Ziwei lowered his head and nodded. "Didn't one tell you not to fight and get hurt?" Su Yingxue carefully lifted his clothes, revealing 2 more wounds on his back, both quite deep. A surge of anger welled up in her heart. "If you go out and fight again, I'll..." Ziwei raised his gaze, uncertain about what kind of threat she might utter. Su Yingxue contemplated for a while before turning to brew some medicine for him. What could she do with this cold-blooded assassin? Kill him? That was impossible. She prepared 2 bowls of medicine, intentionally making them bitter. Ziwei didn't hesitate to drink both, and his gaze remained fixed on Su Yingxue as if he was waiting for something. Su Yingxue smirked. "Want some candy?" Ziwei nodded. "Yes." "No." "Who told you to get hurt again? If you get hurt and it affects my ability to detoxify and help you recover, I won't give you any candy. 111 Deduct a candy each time you get injured. 1 injury, 1 candy deducted." Su Yingxue playfully threatened. Ziwei's expression soured. He had been threatened by Su Yingxue. Even so, he had no choice but to escort Su Yingxue back to the residence, fearful that any harm might befall her. Chapter 132. The time to talk with Xingping that night. Su Yingxue didn't sleep well either. She tossed and turned, her mind occupied with thoughts of her mother, the Empress of Yu Kingdom, and the connection with Princess Xingping. The medical books left by her mother and the Empress of the Yu Kingdom, the patterns that could be pieced together, and the Empress' close friend. Could that be her mother? Was her mother from the Yu Kingdom? She only knew her mother was Princess Shuli, but nobody knew where she came from or her true identity. Therefore, her mother's death remained a locked mystery. If she could uncover her mother's background, it would bring solace to her mother's soul. Unable to contain herself, she got out of bed and headed to the Princess Manor. She remembered Liang Jin's words and wanted to enter through the main entrance. However, the main entrance was guarded, and even the side entrance had 2 palace guards. Su Yingxue pinched the cold jade on her chest and wanted to take it in. However, before she reached the door, a figure walked out from inside. The man was dressed in a silver robe. He had a cool back view and carried a fragrance with him. Su Yingxue caught a whiff from a distance. It was the scent of Xingping's clothes. Recalling Xingping's numerous miscarriages, her heart skipped a beat. Oh no. As she rushed in, Xingping's room was filled with sorrowful crying. Xingping lay amid disheveled clothing, her body bearing marks of torment inflicted by a man. Lianer sobbed heavily, "He's too heartless. Despite knowing you had just miscarried, he treated you like this. How would you face the days ahead? Princess, we must find your highness and plead for his help." Xingping pulled the impulsive Lianer, breathing heavily. "No. Do you want your highness to see me like this? But, apart from your highness, no one can help you. That person is a prince." Lianer's heart ached for Xingping. A figure crossed her mind, and her eyes lit up. "Princess, we can seek Dr. Su's help. I'll seek out Dr. Su tomorrow. If she takes action, she can stop that person. Moreover, she wants to learn about her mother's background. Only you, the princess, remember it. I'll inform her, and shall help you. Before Lianer could finish, Xingping covered her mouth firmly. Her voice remained hoarse from crying, but she was extremely cautious. The Princess Manor is full of leaks, and even for you and me, certain matters can't be spoken lightly. Hearing Xingping's words, Su Yingxue immediately lost her desire to enter. She turned and left the Princess Manor. On the way back to the Marquis Manor, she looked calm and kept thinking. It was a coincidence that Xingping gave her the book, but she knew that her mother had a relationship with the Empress of the Yu Kingdom, but she did not tell her in the daytime. Xingping remembered it. However, she intended to use this as leverage for a future deal. Su Yingxue's lips curled into a smile. A deal was possible, but she must retain control over the negotiation. At the right moment, she would have a sincere conversation with Xingping. For instance, when the prince who had humiliated her appeared outside the princess' manor simultaneously with her. This moment wasn't easy to find, but it seemed the heavens were particularly favorable to her. Early the next morning, before she went to the clinic, old Madame Zhang arrived with news. Miss, the palace has sent an invitation to the spring banquet in 7 days. However, Master has avoided letting you know. Even the new clothes and accessories have only been prepared for Miss Euro. Su Yingxue's eyes narrowed slightly. Spring banquet, wasn't this a good opportunity? Chapter 133. The leader Lu Shulan. In her past life, she didn't even qualify to attend the spring banquet. Every year, it was either on the eve of the spring banquet that Su Yuro would embarrass her so much that she couldn't face people, or Su Dingheng would scold her severely, making it impossible for her to leave the house. This year, neither of them would be able to stop her. Inside Shaonian Court, Su Dingheng was lying on a pair of delicate knees. Lu Shulan had lit his favorite bamboo leaf incense and gently massaged his temples. Seeing him open his eyes slightly, Lu Shulan served him tea with her soft hands and brought it to Su Dingheng's mouth. After he finished drinking, he reached out and touched her tender, delicate hand. His heart stirred uncontrollably, and a touch of affection appeared in his eyes. Later, he turned over, pressing Lu Shulan beneath him. At first, Lu Shulan felt shy, but she soon matched his eagerness, allowing him to remove his clothes as he sought fulfillment from her. After half an hour had passed, Su Dingheng felt greatly satisfied. He carefully helped Lu Shulan dress and held her in his arms, full of tenderness. After all these years, you're the one who understands me the best, Laner. Marquis has treated me so well, showing me favor for so many years. Even though you are in the Marquis Manor, your heart has always been with me. Naturally, I will serve you diligently to bring you happiness. Lu Shulan had an even more charming appearance than Su Yuro. Her eyes were so charming that they could mesmerize men. Whenever he met her gaze, Su Dingheng's rationality seemed to vanish, and he wished to offer her the best the world had to offer. After Lu Shulan satisfied him, she brought up the topic. For grand events like the spring banquet, I may not personally arrange everything for Marquis, but 111 make sure to dress our daughter beautifully. I'll remind her to not bring any disgrace upon you, Marquis. Su Dingheng playfully called Su Yuro over and planted a kiss on her cheek. Ruer would never bring disgrace to me. She's a proper young lady from a noble family. Whenever I bring her to events, she always adds luster to my image. It's only Yingxue who truly vexes me. Mentioning Su Yingxue, the happiness Su Dingheng had felt from Lu Shulan instantly faded. His dark brows furrowed. Lu Shulan then summoned Su Yuro and gently stroked Su Dingheng's chest. Certainly, it's Ruer who hasn't performed well at home, which is why the relationship between Marquis and eldest young miss has become so strained. Ruer, mother can't bear to see you unhappy. Have you upset your sister again? Su Yuro's innocent face appeared timid, her eyes filled with grievances. Apologetically, she said, "It's all Ruer's fault for failing to gain sister's favor. Mother, I'll give sister all the gold and silver jewelry you've given me to please her." "Good child, that's very good." Lu Shulan patted Su Yura's hand and praised her. Su Dingheng's anger grew upon hearing this. He kicked the cushion away and cursed Su Yingxue. "Who does she think she is? She wants my Ruer to please her. She should be the one pleasing Ruer. Marquis, eldest young miss is the legitimate daughter with noble status. How could she be the one pleasing Ruer? Our Ruer can't endure treatment from eldest young miss like that. Even if eldest young miss wanted Ruer to be her servant, one would properly guide Ruer on how to serve her." Lu Shulan's eyes were sincere, brimming with tears, portraying a gentle and caring demeanor that would touch anyone's heart. Su Dingheng's heart softened at her words. How could one bear to let our flesh and blood serve her? Su Yingxue doesn't even consider if she's worthy. What legitimate daughter? If it wasn't for her slut mother's reputation, would I have married her to trick the old master into passing the title to me? Otherwise, you would have returned with me to the Marquis Manor and lived a comfortable life. Chapter 134, Gaining Experience. Marquis, what are you talking about? Being by Marquis' side for all these years is already a great blessing. Lu Shulan anxiously held Su Dingheng's hand, placing it over the softest part of her chest. Su Yuro observed from the side, realizing that her mother truly could capture her father's heart. Her endurance was far inferior to her mother's. When Su Dingheng heard her words, he felt that she carried an air of dignity and grace. He had also heard her mention providing jewelry for Su Yuro. He immediately took out a stack of silver notes. "Take these. I've already arranged for Ruer's clothes and accessories. I'll get someone to add some more. I guarantee that our Ruer will dress beautifully on the day of the spring banquet and make others envious. Thank you, Father, for your love. Your affection for Mother indirectly benefits your daughter too." Su Yuro giggled sweetly. "You little one. Marquis has showered you with affection for many years, treating you far better than eldest young Mississippi. Yet, you still have so many requests. When you return, make sure to serve your elder sister well." "Yes, Mother. I'll remember that and serve my sister diligently." Both mother and daughter exhibited extraordinary obedience. Su Dingheng cherished them dearly, and his guilt only deepened. Upon returning home with Su Yuro, he waved his hand, instructing his men to provide Su Yuro with a substantial amount of silver and additional clothing and accessories. When he passed by Su Yingxu's courtyard, he realized that there was no movement at her place. When the courtyard was deserted, Su Dingheng felt very carefree again. Su Yuro proudly showed off the clothing and accessories Su Dingheng had provided, her excitement evident as she spoke. After Lu Shulan's initial joy, she hurriedly reminded her, "If Su Yingxue discovers these items, don't be stingy. Let her choose first." "I want." "Mother, these are all the best materials in Jiangdu City. And this rouge and cosmetic powder was bought from the newly opened Thousand Treasures Pavilion. It's very expensive." Su Yuro guarded her belongings closely, worried they might be taken from her. Lu Shulan gently shook her head. "How can you compare yourself to Su Yingxue? In the future, how can you compete with her for the position of 7th Imperial Consort? Mother, are you implying that she might threaten me into marrying the 7th Prince?" Su Yuro's worry caused her to cast her things aside and gaze at her mother nervously. Lu Shulan was born with a delicate face and a frail body. Even Su Yuro, her biological daughter, would want to protect her mother, let alone men. Lu Shulan embraced Su Yuro and tenderly smoothed her hair. "Do you think that a young woman like her would expose herself so frequently and visit medical clinics for no reason? Haven't you suffered enough at her hands in the past? Mother. Suyuro protested, slightly frustrated. Listen to mother. Su Yingxue will undoubtedly attend the spring banquet this time. However, you must avoid any conflicts with her. Just observe her closely and report back to me about her behavior at the event, Lu Shulan earnestly advised. Mother. I don't want her to go. Is there any way to stop her from going? If she meets the seventh prince, Suyuru's anger flared as she thought of Su Yingxu's envious face. Don't worry. Mother will find Su Yingxu's weaknesses and only then can we defeat her in one fell swoop. After consoling Suyuro for some time, Lu Shulan urged her to be patient and not to engage in any conflicts with Su Yingxue at the spring banquet. Previously, she had suffered quite a bit from Su Yingxue. This time, even if Suyuro did not want to be obedient, she could only be obedient. When she saw Su Yingxue in her riding attire, she gritted her teeth. Her mother was right. Su Yingxue had come. With a bright smile, she approached Su Yingxue. Sister, it's wonderful that you're attending the spring banquet. However, your outfit today might not be entirely suitable. I've prepared 2 new sets of clothing and accessories. Would you like to choose one to change into? Su Yingxue glanced at the valuable attire. A hint of mockery played on her lips. Sister, don't you know? Upper Forest Court consists of both scenic spots and hunting ground. Otherwise, why aren't you wearing a gown today? It seems you've dressed lightly for ease of movement. A flicker of embarrassment crossed Su Yuru's face. Her intentions had been transparent to Su Yingxue. Today, most of them were going to 2 places to enjoy the scenery. Whoever wore heavy clothes was destined to not be able to go to the hunting ground to play. She wanted to limit Su Yingxue's range of activities, but she did not expect that Su Yingxue, who had never been to the spring banquet, would know the rules. However, she immediately changed the topic and bowed slightly. With an apologetic expression, she said, "It was thoughtless of me. If seventh prince had given me more riding attire, I would certainly offer a set to sister." Chapter 136, The seventh prince gives clothes. However, she immediately changed the topic and bowed slightly. With an apologetic expression, she said, "It's my thoughtlessness. If it weren't for seventh prince only sending a set of riding attire to me, I would have certainly given one to sister." Speaking of this golden silk riding outfit, it's surprisingly lightweight and comfortable to wear. Su Yingxue glanced at her riding attire. The material was indeed the palace's specially provided golden silk. "Marquis, the seventh prince has sent someone to deliver the riding attire to Miss." A servant reported, interrupting Su Yuru's words. A palace guard from the prince's residence arrived, holding a set of red riding attire. The material appeared to be the same as what Su Yuru was wearing. Su Yuru looked pleasantly surprised. Beside her, Yuan Ruo deliberately exclaimed, "Oh my, miss. Your Highness not only sent you one set but now he's sent another just before departure. He's attentive to you." She deliberately used these words to taunt Su Yingxue and her maid. Unexpectedly, Jilan snorted. "Our miss doesn't care about this material." When Su Dingheng heard this, he scolded angrily, "You fool. This golden silk garment can only be obtained through the emperor's reward. Who do you think you are to look down on it?" Jilan puffed up her face and whispered, "Ninth prince sent many sets to miss before. They've all been gathering dust in the storeroom. Why suddenly take an interest in this dress?" "Marquis, your Highness specifically stated that this garment is intended for eldest young miss." After the palace guard finished speaking, he handed the clothing to Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue waved her hand and had Jilan accept it. As Jilan accepted it, Su Yuru was dumbfounded. Su Dingheng, like a statue in the wind, only his mustache moved as the wind blew. The situation became exceedingly awkward. Su Yingxue didn't want to engage with them any longer, so she took the clothing and left. Su Dingheng looked at Su Yuro, who was crestfallen, and patted her back. "Ruer, it's just a piece of clothing. Seventh Prince did it for the sake of balance between you and your sister." "Yes, father," Ruer understands. Su Yuro pretended to be obedient on the surface, while her heart was already roiling. Why should it be like this? Why did Su Yingxue have what she had? Why did Seventh Prince give something to her and Su Yingxue? In the carriage, Su Yuro was so angry that she began to cry. At the entrance of Upper Forest Court, Chu Qingye stood tall and elegant. He typically dressed casually, but today, he was dressed splendidly. Wearing a white riding attire adorned with a dragon embroidery pattern, a silver crown on his head, and a jade belt around his waist, he exuded elegance and grace, epitomizing his appearance. His older brother, Third Prince Chu Xiuwen, jestingly remarked, "Seventh brother, when did you become so concerned about your appearance? Could it be that you're waiting for the delicate daughter of Marquis Su? You're taking it too seriously. Third brother, you're jesting. As a prince, I can't afford to disgrace the royal family's reputation." Chu Qingye bantered back, though his gaze was involuntarily directed toward the entrance of Upper Forest Court. He was searching for a particular figure among the arriving carriages. Chu Xiuwen was well aware of his younger brother's infatuation. Even if they didn't mingle with others today, Chu Qingye would remain by his side for amusement. The two waited for a while, but the Marquis Manor carriage had yet to arrive. Chu Xiuwen, who was used to seeing beautiful women, suddenly exclaimed, "Oh! That young woman in green exudes a valiant aura, but she looks unfamiliar. I can't recall which noble family she's from. Seventh brother, help me identify her." Chu Qingye wasn't paying much attention, but after a moment, he heard Chu Xiuwen exclaim, "What? It's Lin Cece, that ugly girl. Where are the repulsive pimples on her face? Her complexion has improved, and she looks this good now."